Hello guys, today we're going to be talking about the GTX 1660 Super. The 1660 Super came out in 2019. It has 6GB of GDDR6 memory, and back in the day in 2019 it was an amazing 1080p card and it could play pretty much any game at 1080p high settings and 60 FPS. But my question is, how will it handle in the games in 2025? Triple games, FPS games? Well, in this video I'm gonna test it out. So first we have Apex Legends. As you can see, we're getting an average FPS of 120 to 140 at high settings on Apex. Now that's pretty good for our FPS game. So for esport games, I think this card is very good. In general, for FPS games you don't really need a lot of power and GPUs, but in Apex and Fortnite and those mainstream FPS games you'll probably need a bit of a better card. Next up we have Cyberpunk 2077 on medium settings. We're getting around an average FPS of 30 to 50 FPS. Now for a AAA game this is pretty decent, but the 1660 Super is nearly tailored for AAA games, but as we can see, the 1660 Super is holding its own against Cyberpunk 2077 and probably other AAA games. Next up on the list we have the First, with an average FPS of 120 to 140, same like Apex, but at high settings, basically the same settings at Apex. But the First is really not a graphics intensive game or a CPU game, but still it's a pretty good FPS average for the 1660 Super in 2025. And last but not least, we have Elden Ring. At recommended settings, we have an average FPS of 60. Now this is amazing for that AAA game. Elden Ring is one of the best games out there. It's like released in 2022. So for 60 FPS, the 1660 Super is holding on its own for AAA games. Now, should you really buy a 1660 Super in 2025? I mean, if that's the only thing you have money for, you should. But I'd recommend something like RX 6600 XT or AMD card because they're cheaper and then give better price to performance. But you can either get a GTX 1660 Super or TI, or RTX 2060. Now I'd recommend this 2060 because in general it has more power and ray tracing and DLSS, but also with AMD you get FSR, so if you buy AMD card you can also use FSR, but also FSR is compatible with other cards. So my thoughts on the GTX 1660 Super in 2025 are that it's a great card for FPS games like Fortnite, Apex, Call of Duty Warzone, but for AAA games I recommend a better cards.